Hi, welcome back. Welcome to Fiction Week. So first of all, workshops are going really well. Just to clarify, you guys have until this coming Thursday at midnight to respond to your classmates' submissions. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please go check the Moodle right now and see if you have A, submitted your workshop draft, and B, responded to your classmates. You are only responsible for writing a peer letter to the people who submitted on time. If somebody submitted late, 24 hours late or more, then it's up to your discretion. Feedback is always very nice to receive though. So just gonna put that out there. We all want to be somewhat understanding and kind to each other. Okay, so I'm excited for Fiction Week. Fiction is when we really kind of branch out from what we know into the scary darkness of creative writing. But don't be scared. It's going to be a great time. Just again, look at what the masters do, steal from them, steal directly from them, do exactly what they do. I stole directly from a book that I was reading when I was finishing my novel for the ending. So if you would like to read my book when it comes out, maybe you can find its inspiration out there somewhere in the world. Okay, so this week we're looking at character along with fiction. Next week we're looking at setting along with fiction. So when you're writing your own fiction pieces, please remember to think about those elements that we talked about this week in character and try to implement what you've learned about character and into your fiction, right? Okay, I have a PowerPoint. Very, very exciting stuff, I know. I'm almost through with everybody's nonfiction 2 uh, feedback, and I'm going to go ahead and put those grades in for the workshop submissions today sometime. So it should be just what I've graded from nonfiction 1, and I've given most everybody feedback for nonfiction 2, and then I'm going to just enter in the workshop grade for whatever you turned in, as long as you turned it in on time and it looks like you've tried to implement some revision or at least what we've some feedback bit. So if you wrote something new, hopefully it's somewhat polished based on what we've learned already and not just like a complete rough draft. I hope that makes sense. Okay, hang on. Oh, and you're probably wondering about the first 2 grades too. Those I really view as like beginning practice and sort of brainstorming. So I don't really give feedback on those, but I am going to put those grades in real soon. So, all right, let's talk about fiction, character, Ursula K. Le Guin, and Roald Dahl. Okay, so fiction as broken down in imaginative writing is made up of story and plot. So, a story is a series of events recorded in their chronological order. So, beginning, middle, and end. That's the story. That's how every story ever exists out in the world. It doesn't mean you have to tell it like that, but that's how they exist, right? But a plot is a series of events deliberately arranged so as to reveal their dramatic, thematic, and emotional significance, right? So if you told every story just in its chronological order, there wouldn't be a whole lot to reveal, right? We are trying to reveal things and make them shocking and amazing and thematic and emotional, right? So why in fiction do certain things correlate with others? Why do certain stories have strong symbolisms of specific themes and etc.? So, ordinary events have emotional and dramatic significance. And that's why there are these symbols that fiction draws out to make ordinary events interesting. However, ordinary events can be extremely dramatic. I'm about to talk about this in just a second, but something as ordinary as getting a C on an essay can feel like the end of the world, right? So try to make us believe that. Not all fiction has to be action packed or supernatural. In fact, my favorite fiction is very ordinary. Okay, character. So the most important thing about a character is that this character wants something. Every character must want something. Even the most insignificant character has to desire something. So every character needs to be portrayed as desire, right? So this is a person moving forward in life who wants something. Every single action needs to portray their desire. And that sounds kind of ridiculous or hyperbolic or something, but it's true. In fiction, everything that the character does is driven by what they want. You know, there's a reason that we don't ever see Harry Potter use the bathroom in the books because it's just not significant. It's a natural human thing that he has to deal with, that everybody deals with, but we don't want to read about it because it doesn't make good fiction. So this quote, he who wants good is good. He who wants evil is evil. He who wants to be lazy is lazy, etc. and so forth. You know, just keep in mind that as humans, we are complicated. So this is not a hard and fast rule. And the most interesting characters are those characters who work actively against their own desires, right? Actively want something, but make bad choices getting there, right? Next character is portrayed as image, and all of this is kind of wrapped up in their desire. But character as image. How does this person laugh? What do their clothes look like? Every movement of theirs, every gesture, every facial expression, everything reflects your character. Okay, and then finally, oh, well, not finally, as voice. So think from the point of view of the character. You know, what are some catchphrases? Does this person have an accent? Does this person use specific diction? In other words, specific words again and again. I just read In the Garden of Good and Evil about Savannah, which I highly recommend if you're, especially if you're interested in Savannah. It's just this great story wrapped up in like history, which I didn't think I liked, but it was really good. But one of the main characters kept saying, "I am serious," and by the end, you just had this vision of this character constantly saying, "I am serious," right? So think about what do these, you know, what kind of voice can you give this character, especially if you're writing from the first person perspective, the I. It can be a little bit more tricky to get that voice in there from the third person, but if you're, you know, working hard enough and stealing from the masters enough, then you can do it. And then finally, as action. So characters action. Where do the characters' desires lead them? Um, you know, again, every movement of your characters on the page should be reflecting what it is that they want in life. So, what do they discover and what decisions are they making? What kind of damage do they do? I mean, we are just human. Every character is a human, which is a lesson I had to learn hard. Don't write the POV of an animal because they're not human. They don't desire things like we do. We don't understand what they really want other than their instincts, right? What kind of change does your character do in the world? Who do they love? And how do they act on that love, right? So think of your characters as these, you know, three-dimensional beings who have these layers to them that you need to explore. There are some other if you wanted to continue reading more about character, there are a few that I left out of the reading that you're welcome to go check out in imaginative writing. Okay, so Genesis and catastrophe. I hope nobody was too shocked and dismayed. I have at least a few students every semester who are a little bit pissed off reading this piece because you definitely in the beginning have your expectations and your desires for the characters subverted, right? And it always feels kind of, I don't know, shocking and sort of maddening to have an author do a gotcha like that. That's why I don't like O. Henry, who wrote the um, shoot, the one with the combs. I can't think of it. Anyways, I don't like to be surprised, but this one has such an interesting use of subverting your expectations that I like to use it. You're rooting for this baby to survive in the world in the beginning. And then once you realize who the baby is, you really are kind of just dismayed that an author could make you feel such a way, right? Um, and this is also the inverse of a character. We don't know the baby, we don't know these people, but we know the man. And it gives you this idea of maybe why he became the way he was. Not that we are sympathizing with this person, but we maybe are seeing what the origin of that life was for him, where that anger came from, right? This terrible tyrannical father who from day one, doesn't even want this child, kind of wants it to die, right? Look at how weak this baby is. It's called weak so much that, we know what he turns into. So this is an example of an origin story, which next week you're going to have the option to write an origin story for a character. And this is showing us sort of the original trauma of a character, the original, we know the origin story of like Batman, where his parents get shot right in front of him. These are examples of origin stories where we see a very well-known character to us turn into either the villain or the hero, depending on who you write about, and where their specific trauma came from. And notice how in that story, every character has a desire. Every character has something that they're working towards. Every single action, every bit of dialogue, from the nurse to the doctor to the dad to the mother especially, right? She just so badly wants her baby to live and wants the doctor, to tell her that everything is going to be fine, even though she, has had such terrible trauma in her life. So every single character is acting on their desire, and every character has an image, right? So we can so clearly see the doctor, see the father, hear their voices, right? We can within this dialogue, within this room that Doll is painting for us. We can see, we hear their voices, right? And then we see what they do and how they act on what those desires are. So when you're writing your own fiction pieces, I want you to really think about what it is these characters want. We're going to talk about suspending disbelief here in a second too. Okay, so let's talk about the Ursula K. Le Guin story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. So we get this really idyllic image of this town, right? It opens with this beautiful festival, this gorgeous, all these beautiful people, just everything that seems too good to be true, right? Between old moss-grown gardens, married women carrying their babies, and we get these long descriptions. All the processions wound towards the north side of the city, where the great water meadow called the green field boys and girls, naked in the bright air, with mud-stained feet and ankles and long lithe arms, exercised and rested before the race, right? So then we get these long paragraphs, which we'll look at paragraphs next week, but this is a really interesting, if you haven't noticed, Ursula K. Le Guin uses these long paragraphs punctuated by these single or, you know, 3-sentence paragraphs standing in between these long paragraphs to sort of break up where you might see parts of a story. So we get these beautiful long descriptions of Omelas and their people and this horse race, etc., etc. And they drink the Drews, right? Then we get this random question right in the middle. Do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? No. Then let me describe one more thing. Because we don't have these places. These places don't exist, right? We don't have these idyllic utopias. We always have something terrible behind the scenes. And again, I hope nobody was too dismayed because this is a tough one too. You end up in this basement with this child that's being held as a, who knows, a slave, but for what? We don't know. It's just being scapegoated and being used to hold all of the city's sadness, right? Uh, and then it ends. Oh, and so this is an inverse of a character, right? This is like, again, we don't necessarily know this character, but we know sadness, we know anger, we know that utopias don't exist, but there's not a protagonist in this piece. However, everybody again acts towards their own desires. The child has a voice and says, I want out. The people that come there look at this child and either go back to their idyllic lives and pretend that it doesn't exist, or they walk away. The final sentence is about character desire, but they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas, right? Desire, even if the reader isn't quite sure of what exactly these individual characters want, the characters are sure and they're acting on it. And we trust this writer, right? Because of the way that the story is set up, everybody has a desire, everybody is believable, even if this is not believable. So, I'm going to talk about suspending disbelief. Okay, I'm back on for a second because I don't have a slide for this. So, suspending disbelief is when the writer creates a world in which, even if it's illogical in our world, the logic of that world still makes sense, right? Like in this piece, this makes no sense in our world. This wouldn't exist in our world. But because Ursula K. Le Guin is so certain and confident, and everything within the writing works within the story, we believe it. We suspend our own disbelief of this situation. So that brings me to our writing experiment this week. Because I think I checked all my boxes. We got the fiction reading, story and plot. We've got character. And now we're going to talk about you guys creating your own characters, right? And suspending disbelief for what we feel like we need to write in order for the readers to believe us. So this week's writing, you're going to take a bumper sticker and you're going to put it on an imaginary car, and then you're going to explore that car and have a conversation with the person who owns the car. Now, you're not creating the character of yourself. You're creating the character of the person who owns the car. So, a snafu that my students have run into in the past is feeling like they need to write a conversation with this person in which the owner of the car, whose bumper sticker you're talking or like you're using as inspiration for this character, isn't going to get mad that you're looking in their car. Okay, so let's take a look at the writing. Let's take a look at it. Hold on one second. Okay, so you've got bumper stickers listed down here. You're going to choose one. And then you're going to describe the vehicle that this bumper sticker is stuck on, make, model, year, color, condition. You can list that if you want to just get it out of the way. And then you're going to write a scene in which, you open the door, describe the smells and textures, name 3 objects that you find, name a 4th object you're surprised to find there. Look up, here comes the owner. Who, walking how, wearing what, carrying what, with what facial expression. You and the owner have a brief conversation. What do they say? What do you say? Okay, there's no need to apologize. You don't need to have the person come up and say, hey, why are you in my car? Just have a conversation with them. So if it's a political bumper sticker, make the conversation political. If it's, funny, make it lighthearted. It doesn't need to be, oh, get out of my car. Oh, I'm so sorry I was in your car. I get a lot of those every semester, and I'd rather see you sort of like let your imagination run wild and write a scene in which, you have a conversation, or there is a conversation had with this character whose bumper sticker is inspiration to create a whole character. And this might seem a little like stereotypical, but that's kind of like what we do in fiction. You take something that seems like a cookie cutter print of a person, and then you make it original. You turn every person sort of has something about them that might seem typical, right? I don't know, I'm sitting here in my house with my blonde highlights and my round glasses. I'm sure that there is something that could be painted about me that would be like very typical. I drive a RAV4. That probably surprises about 2 people. So what about me would surprise you? There's a lot, right? So what about your characters would surprise your readers? Make it surprising. Find that object in there that surprises you, right? That's why there's that line in there. 3 objects that might seem typical, an object that surprises you. Have the character come out, have an interesting conversation. See what you can do with the dialogue. See what surprises the reader. What might they say? Just kind of let your imagination run wild on this one, all right? And finally, when you write dialogue, remember that each piece of dialogue needs its own specific paragraph break and a dialogue tag if you think it's appropriate. If you're stressed out about dialogue, open up a novel near you. Maybe, let's see, the Genesis and Catastrophe would be a good example. Those Who Walk Away doesn't have that much good dialogue. Let's see, what else? Oh, I don't know. Just look in a book, use their examples. I can't stress stealing things enough. Please beg, borrow, steal when it comes to writing and things in general in your life. If you see somebody behaving in a way that you think is admirable, act like that, right? Same goes for fiction. I think that's everything. I hope you guys have a great day, great week. I will be getting back to you soon with more feedback. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, last thing. It's a 300-word minimum. You're going to get docked every time if you go under the word count. That's like one of my big things. So please, 300-word minimum for this one. Feel free to exceed it. Okay, bye.